I'm on a quest to find the perfect poem, a gentle balance between word, rhythm, and thought, a perfection that slows my heart's beating and transforms trivia into a smile, a poem that sends the moon and sun dancing over skylines hand in hand, a poem that sings lullabies to future generations at kindergartens, a poem that carries me forward like mankind at the hands of the Illuminati, brutally swinging marionette strings in tune to the throbbing of my blood, a poem that shines through cracks in the deepest catacombs, a poem with the patience and tenacity of an archaeologist, brushing and chipping gently at the grunge enclosing still minds. A poem whose perversion educates distorted minds and finds normality in the midst of madness. A poem that eases dis-ease and heals my troubled rambling soul. A poem that clears the least traveled path and leads me to the fulfillment of my life's goal. A poem that colors in the outline of my sadness and shatters all remnants of my darkness. A poem that plays the piano, beats the drums and recites words that spin the upright bass with the zest of a child in sweets from heaven. A poem that is the funk of soul, the gentleness of R&B, the creativity of hip-hop. A poem that is rock's uncompromising glare, reggae's roots and culture, Black Sunshine's mellow guitar licks, and opera's pure tenor. A poem that makes you laugh and cry all at the same time. A poem simply titled, The Perfect Poem. I was born to find the poem whose perfection lies not in labels or commercial acclaim, but in the joy it brings every time I hear it. A poem whose meaning is not justified by they and lives because it brings love to one's soul. This poem keeps me awake at night, tossing and turning with words that kiss my brow, calmly stroke my thigh and chill my spine while telling me everything will be all right. This poem is as protective as my father and as liberating as my brother. This poem is my lover, my mistress, my wife. This poem is my first kiss, my baby's first word, my mother's last breath. This poem is as pure as my mother's love. In fact, this poem is my mother's love. For this poem, I've embraced the words of greatness from Gil Scott-Heron to Ursula Rucker, Carl Hancock Rocks to Jill Scott, Muta Baruka to Sarah Jones, Nikki Giovanni, Sonia Sanchez, William Shakespeare, Z, Dumi, Imani, Kabomo, TJ, Maxi Jazz, Saul Williams, Federico Lorca, Miguel Pinheiro. The list goes on, and I have drowned in their beauty and watching their words intertwine to form the perfect poem in each poem, each verse, each line, each word. Every poem is the perfect poem. This poem is the perfect poem, and I was born to find the perfect poem.
Poems are bullshit unless they teach. I said poems serve absolutely no purpose unless they reach the audience they are written for, the ears they are meant for. So you could write the perfect love poem about how you teased her till she let you touch her, but sir, if she can't remember you, then I'm afraid your poetry didn't do what it was supposed to. I've seen war poems that hid behind fancy syllables and metaphors, quietly comfortable with the thought of coming to blows over why they should fight for anything at all. Once I wrote a hope poem, one of those there's a future type poems, but it never spoke till what few wishes we had left broke. I've even seen live poems that wait till the audience is gone, then begin humming softly as a song murdering any sense of rhythm they might have had at all. So I'm thinking of crafting an It's Too Late poem. I'll write it up till it sounds like metal bets against tin cans, loud and outrageous still. Might be too little, too late, because this generation wants fast poems that can outrace us, outface us, maybe even take us to where we've never been. Quick as sin, a look at me poem that screams out to the world you can't even speak your mind, yet you still believe that you and you and you are free from something or someone. Anyone give me a neon poem, black, red, white, yellow, purple, pink, even lion poem that'll teach all other wannabe poems how to grow up and become real type poems. Because poems are nothing but bullshit unless they teach. I said they serve absolutely no purpose unless they reach someone.
been trying to set up an appointment with the man upstairs to discuss this whole turn the other cheek concept, because it is currently not working for me. I don't know if dude has gone cockeyed, but his eye has not been on the sparrow. But I did discover an arrow on my back, and the pharaohs do attack with a stone. Sometimes with credit cards that buy cocaine and Little Wayne CDs. But more frequently with the tongue. Words do kill. And the testimonies are these blood-stained walls of this tomb, formed by shame. I've lost my name, and my faith, and my car, and my girl. It is bad down here. It is bad down here. The mornings I a bitch. I wake up with the mountain stuck on my throat. I am a hideous ghost, sustained by memory and darkroom secrets. My filth will last forever. It is bad down here. So when a nitwit steps on my toes, I do want to scream something mean about their mama. I struggle. I really do struggle with the first shall be last and the last shall be first concept, because it motivates my loser attitude, and I want to be able to choose between holding fire on the one hand and a double jack in the other, and holding a bomb on one hand and a pencil on the other, so I could write a letter to a 7-year-old Muslim girl to let her know that she was not born with terrorist blood in her veins. Then I would write my very talented Zimbabwean friend who's never held a gun in his hands, to let him know that he actually does belong here and that our lives would be empty without him. Then I would write a dying Ethiopian mother a letter. A mother who's never understood the dynamic of classism, to let her know that it is not her fault that she trusted so easily in the river water. I would write Caster Semenya a letter, and it would go, hey girl, hey girl. It was never about you. It is in the nature of war to destroy anything that threatens you. And worse and even more desperate is that housewives have never dreamt of black picket fences. Then I'd write myself a letter. Dear Kabomo, you used to be such a decent guy. What happened to you? Then I would take everything I have and group it together. So when people from Kabomo and Nairobi and Kingston and Sebokeng and Davidton, who've lived their entire lives as last, when they scream that life is unfair, I will not stop them. I struggle. I really struggle with this, what you call it? Do not covet after thy neighbor's wife. Really? Have you actually seen my neighbor's wife? Wait, before you judge, remember that people who live in glass houses pay very high insurance premiums. I think, God, you should rethink the meek shall inherit the earth concept. Because I think Mugabe is primarily responsible for my large dose of schizophrenia. Because I remember clearly praying that he dies. as vigorously as I've prayed that he lives. What I do get is your love concept. That one you got right. When you say that love is patient and that love is kind, I could vibe with that. Because you see, there's a girl who sleeps with magic under her pillow, with tiny eyes that can see far beyond the secret. She loves, even when I'm wearing my dirty pants. And there's a sister who thinks of me as equally as a genius as an embarrassment. She picks up the phone and says, "Are you warm under that rock you sleep in?" She loves, even when I'm wearing my dirty pants. And as a mother who, after spending her last cent paying for my bail, still looks at me as if I'm as pure as a baby's tear. She loves, even when I'm wearing my dirtiest pants.
Arrowroot. Boiled, pounded, fermented, then presented to me as my first food, called poi. Mango, banana, avocado were to follow, smashed up then swallowed. We are of the very first land and soil that feeds us. Of the very first sounds we hear, waves breaking against the shore, slapping and sliding back against the sand, ipus, ukuleles, Jawaiian riffs, wind. We are of our first smells. Mother's skin, salt, heat, sweat, lilikoi, gardenia, all things coconut. I was born on the island of Oahu, the daughter of two parents who knew little of their own roots, ate sushi, teriyaki, Fukushima hot dogs with everything on them, and donned the lays of the land like the others who came there before them. Knew not their mother's tongue nor their father's song, and it would not be long until my father left to a land called Africa. My 8-year-old mind at the time had no idea where Africa even was or what he was getting us into, but since you are now listening closely, I will tell you that it mostly meant the end of my island girl life as I knew it. From that day forth, I was forced to learn new language, dance new music, and through this it was as though I was born again. In a cultural, physical, spiritual concept, my friend, a little golden-skinned blonde girl in an earth-black land. I didn't even know what it meant to be black, white, rich, or poor back then, but I learned the codes very quickly. The simplicity of island life stripped like banana peel from fruit flesh from me, and I began eating new foods, smelling new smells, and I think my walk even changed. Went from flip-flop dragging to fully lifted feet, into colonial concrete structures from Hawaiian Island beach, went from pidgin English tongue to fully crossed British teas and English culture, introduced me to afternoon tea and 3 kisses upon cheeks every time one meets and greets and bids farewell. See, all these little rituals made up the culture in me. Started doing yoga at 13, became a vegetarian, read books on Haile Selassie and Taoism, learned to read tarot and swing pendulums, cooked, ate everything from Mediterranean, African to Latin cuisine, traveled back and forth across this earth multiple times by the age of 13, and across the way I picked up little pieces of culture across the globe, each one resonating with the language of my soul. Danza da Kizomba, Capoeira, Giangola, Native American prayer chants, Nyabingi, one drop Nyatiti, and I gave birth to a little Luo boy. Fed him smashed banana grown from Kenyan soil as his first food, and even now, he has mastered Makaku, calls me Mamai, speaks English and Kiswahili in a little accent you can't quite tap into, loves hip-hop and breakdance, and has this very special gift for being able to identify individual spices and complex flavors. And you see, like these flavors, we too are culturally complex. With the freedom to choose from anywhere, from everywhere, choosing daily rituals to ways of prayer, who we will marry and what will we wear. And it can be argued that being so much of everything makes one not much of anything, and sometimes I feel lost. Without a path laid out before me, guided by my ancestors' light, showing me the way to teach my son and keep him safe, but I know I would trade structure and safety for freedom any day. And I give thanks to be a part of a generation so mixed, part of a people so twisted. We've created new languages, new tongues, and a new voice. I give thanks for being blessed with the gift of cultural choice.
Good evening. We're in a theater, so we thought we'd start off differently. But now we go back to... There's a gentleman in the back who's been a bit nervous because he's used to running theater productions, and I was saying to him, yo man, it's a poetry session. We actually talk to the people in the audience. So welcome. Welcome to One Night Only. My name is Kojo. I am everything. I am the host. I am one of the people mumbling up here on stage. And yeah, we hope you enjoy the show. This is the first time we're doing it in this space. And to be honest, we were just taking advantage of the fact that Imani was supposed to be coming here for a wedding. And then dragged poor TJ all the way down from Gabs, who had one of the hardest bus trips I've ever heard of. She left home at 6 o'clock this morning. I picked her up at 5. How many buses? 3 buses, I think. We did 3 buses on the way. So we're going to get into it. I will start off. I haven't been writing much lately, which is not necessarily a good thing, but I do have a new poem that I'm working on. I'm hoping it will turn into something much larger than anything I've done before, but I'm going to do part of it today. It's called Musical Chairs. Soul fantasies linger on the dance floors of memories, transport forgotten sins from then till now. Nostalgia has a habit of wiping cracked slates clean. Past discretions fade with time, leave only slightly soiled fragments and a bittersweet taste that returns when you hear that chord, that note. Your affliction is full-blown by the chorus. It ravages your body and your soul. It ravages the body and your soul. It eats at the fabric of your body and your soul. It is easier to look back than exist in the illusionary present. Could have been a refuge from to be. This dance is scattered. The soundtrack, a medley of everything from hip-hop to symphony. Where have all the good songs gone? Yes, the good songs. Where have all the good songs gone? The good songs. Where have they gone? A boy sits in a room in his father's house. He reaches into his father's checkered past to find comfort. His friends don't quite get it, or perhaps they don't want to, but he does. The words he hears are in a language that only he seems to understand. The sounds he hears seem to beat in tune to the beating of his heartbeat. The boy finds a semblance of momentary peace in the music's moments. The sounds caressing through the headphones to caress his heart. This is real art, he whispers wordlessly. This is real art. And closes his eyes to today, drowning in a yesterday he knows nothing of. The good songs, where have they gone? Yes, the good songs, where have the good songs gone? Mommy, I hear voices singing my future. They sing off-key to mock me, read indecision with each twisted melody. My yesterdays are faded into the music of time. I dream of classics yet to be sung in my name. Is that egotistical? Is that why the voices still mock me, taunting me with schizophrenic melodies and a cacophony of harmonies? Where have all the good songs gone? Yes, I'm talking about the good songs. Where have they gone? She used to sit listening to her mother hum. Melodies that reach back to the beginning of time. This was the soundtrack of her childhood, rooted in the earth, the womb, the soil. This was the calm before the storm of puberty, when she stumbled through the music of her youth and finally understood why. On those Sunday afternoons listening to a small radio placed next to the stove in the kitchen, why? In between Sunday lunch and Sunday chores, she would sometimes, not always, just sometimes, why? She would sometimes see a tear in her mother's eyes. Where have the good songs gone? The division of music into someone's random classification leaves those of us who exist in the gray area confused. Where have they gone, the good songs? This man was born into silence. When the doctor smacked him, he moved his lips without sound, afraid to speak even then. Within the walls of the place he called home, the only sound allowed was prayer. As a boy, he slept with his ear to the wall, catching the beauty of music that crept between the cracks from the neighbors' rooms. The only sound he ever heard from within his own home were the sounds of his father's fists and his mother's crying, usually in tune to the muffled sounds from the street outside his window. And when he grew older and finally left the prison walls of his father's house, he submerged himself fully clothed in the music of a lifetime. Where have all the good songs gone? The good songs, where have they gone? The songs that carry our memories, take us to a place once lived. Most times they bring with them the magic of lasting moments. Sometimes, only sometimes, the pain they bring chokes. Why have all the good songs gone? Thank you. I'm also stagehand. Yeah, like I said, that's kind of, I'm semi-excited about it. It's because I've been working on it for the last 2 years. And every time I think it's complete, something else comes. And for those of you who know, here's a shameless plug, I write for City Pulse. And my last column last weekend seemed to create a lot of drama because I complained about the quality of music today, in particular people like Lil Wayne and Drake. But just because I feel a lot of the music is mediocre, but that's another story. And then going to a total different place. This poem is called Staccato Rhythms. I am 2 seconds ahead of today, chasing the residues of tomorrow on the wings of an albino dove. Staccato rhythms are the missing link between past and future, that place between time and space. My 1 and 1 add up to 3 because your 2 just can't be true, and so I follow the children of Dune riding on the bare backs of worms in search of the spicy side of life. The Emperor's intentions are not real, and I see beyond alien agents with 3-piece suits and dark eyes that reflect the mindless vacuum. If I kneel before you, does that make you king or make me a coward? Lead and we shall follow your nonsensical symbols of division. Speak and we shall listen to your doctored equivocation. Trapped in your realm, each day is an out-of-body experience, and at night, I dream reality. Vivid, gritty, and raw, I am flawed, this I know. That's what makes me human. But you, bastard angel of a democratic devil times infinity, clawed divinity out of unwilling souls. Lead and still we follow. Speak and still we listen to your hollow utterings that leave me choking on endless stutter. The shutters of my eyes refuse to close, subjected to your version of reality. My sibilant S has me stressed, and you must be the fool that put an S in lisp, inflicting grammatical defects on my thinking schematic. Medically speaking, you slice incisions in already bleeding hearts. Mathematically speaking, we means us against you, and we just don't add up. Politically speaking, we the wretched bow before the man, dumb, deaf, and blind. If we dance to your finger snaps, does that make you the puppet master, or make us cowards? Marionettes harnessed to invisible strings moving at your will. Lifeless dolls led by a nose that forever grows, shackled, anger entangled in your written lies. We are speechless because we fail to speak, hoping that our silence will project our thoughts by osmosis. Lead and still we follow. Speak and still we listen to your hollow utterings, and find our place in corners where your words hold no power. In time we shall find our voice and chant you down like the walls of Jericho, because this cannot go on forever. It just can't go on forever. Thank you. Whew. Next up, I'd like to welcome somebody who I consider a friend, as well as an amazing poet. I met her a couple of years ago. I had a very good friend who lived in Botswana at the time, and those were the days when, we used to pound these streets looking for poetry. And the one Saturday morning he phones me to say, listen, I just heard on the radio that there's a poetry show happening in Gabs. So I jumped in the car and I drove to Gabs to watch a poetry show, and was blessed and honored to be able to experience her poetry then, and to also experience it now and see how far she's grown. And also in some instances she makes me want to quit. I think she is that good. So please welcome TJ Dema.
Dumelang. Well, Kojo's pretty much said it all. We decided that the second set would be a bit more interactive and we would speak back and forth, but you know, I'm almost afraid to say anything and ruin that very generous and beautiful introduction. So I think I'll just jump into the next two poems that I want to share with you. They're fairly self-explanatory, so I will save you the long-winded explanations. Shh. Listen to her. But no one does. And like you, I thought I had already seen her televised on some art exhibition once. All black and white grayscale shots that hid the hunger in her eyes behind the camera's reflection. And I thought, well, I thought she must be beautiful. As though that were all there ever was. A pretty smile, not a hungry mouth, a small waist, never an empty belly. Belle of the ball, I guess Sade must not have met this queen because she too is worthy of her own lullaby, own bittersweet #1 hit. Except there's no room here for sorrow. We just go on same as before because someone, and we can't quite remember who, but someone promised us salvation is near. And we've been told God gave us these ears so we could hear that salvation is near. She never says this out loud. Never says this load is not mine to carry, this load is too heavy to carry. Instead she gets up, wakes the dawn and baits reflection of self. Dark-eyed light of her mother's life, cradles young one on back and walks out back straight to her little corner of hell. You see, she's raising her young one sweet at a time, living from hand to mouth, where a tebe, a rupee, a kwacha, a cent literally means life. She's been married to poverty for what feels like forever. It's been so long since anything felt right, pure, clean, easy, that she can't even remember ever. She's been 18 for 10 years and still counting innocence lost to babies ago. Like it can be found reclaimed within the ice, barely keeping cool, her chosen produce for the day, and not ever in her children's eyes. It seeped into her skin, brown, murky reality has. It's in the way she no longer desires what's not hers. She no longer says, this load is not mine to carry, this load is too heavy to carry. Street vendors sing sweet, sweet melody, while life periodically bends her through its own bittersweet, broken melody. In her world, your reality is a joke. Love, a yoke that chokes till she forgets to laugh, so she barters with her God daily. There are no diamonds on her wish list. You see, some choices are easier to make than others, like bread and milk, bread for milk, bread or milk that comes with no fist, because on her street, the women still gather to count calories to feed their young ones empty bellies with sun-baked promises fulfilled on back seats and hidden alleys. Not for fame or fortune, these women have never met either. Not for glory neither. They simply sell what they have, and when there's nothing left, they sell who and what they are. So tonight there'll be no sky blue SAB CNN DSM or ETV endorsement of this beat. Only this poetry from Africa's streets. There are no timekeepers here. No hi, I'm home dear, just life. One heartbeat at a time. Shh. Because if you listen carefully, you just might hear that nightingale speak, might dare to see the streets weep, sweep this vendor's melody as life continues to bend her through its own bittersweet, broken melody, melody, melody.
Oh.
Dear Africa, I write to you from what used to be the safety of my bedroom. My name is Melody. I am looking for my husband Patrick, last seen boarding a bus in Harare for Joburg to carry back our son Farai, who lived and worked for some time somewhere in the south. If you have any information at all, please come forward. Silence. This poem is not political. I repeat, this poem is not political. Yet fact prevails where sanity fails, because 400 odd years ago, there are those who died for daring to dream that they could read and eat and breathe and be just like you. Yet 400 hours ago, there are those who died for having dared to dream that they could read and eat and breathe and be free just like you. 400 hours ago, there are those who died for having dared to be on the earth they were, spoke the tongues they did, birthed the sons they hid, beneath fallen breasts sucked dry of blood and oil and rock and milk. I did not mean that this poem was not real, just that it must not sound social or sexual, emotional or political, personal, let alone human. In turn, my words have no complexion. I repeat, my words have no complexion, yet they are no less real. And for you that seeds but one question, have you ever seen God on CNN? You see, I've only ever seen someone else's definition of him. Yet I've seen Yahweh, Jehovah, Mudimu, Mwali, God, Allah, in the eyes of Iraqi, Somali, Zimbabwean, Malawian mothers wrapping black, brown, gold, yellow, brown babies, and Afghans seeped in the red of the siblings before them. Africa. In this century, we move. We move from Earth to Mars, change universal laws, and say what once was, no longer is. Yet we merely move from breaking backs to breaking silent bonds written before we were born. Humanity is sacred, I tell you. I come sent to remind you. Humanity is you, it's me, it's beyond boundaries and colors and yesterday's worries over rent and pride, stars and stripes, 20s and 10s, mounds of earth moved to dig deep to build stadiums built in the shape of a coil for anything as crudely consumable as oil, but not as seen through the eyes of those in free bondage. They scream, no, we scream, this is the age of bonds and credit cards and cash to finance your dash of personal slavery. I say watch while the young dance to the music of broken chains. We moved, shh. We moved from chains on hands and feet to imprisoning our hearts and our minds, and I ask you now, is this it? Is this the freedom for which so many valiantly fought and others thought humanity no longer sought? Humanity is sacred because it is you and I. Humanity is sacred because it is you and I. Humanity is sacred because humanity is sacred. And the next time you look to your choice of CNN, SABC, DSM, or ETV, please look for the God and the good in you and me, because humanity is still searching for my husband Patrick. We are silently seeking any remnants of peace.
I was not wrong, was I? TJ. And to follow TJ, yeah. Now, to follow TJ is also a friend, someone I believe, I actually think he's too talented. There's nothing he can't do. But he's a friend of mine. We've performed together, we've written together, we've fought, we've laughed. When he cries alone, and I cry alone. Please welcome Kabomo Vilakazi.
Yeah. What do you say after TJ, man? I wish I knew Betty, because I would rock a Betty palm. And you guys would have no idea what I'm saying. Like, Unchichimisha Makura, like, oh my goodness, how deep is that guy? Thanks, TJ. Kojo put this poetry gig together, so if you guys would allow me to please give a round of applause for the man talking. Great guy, family guy. His beautiful wife is here. If I was at church, actually I could do that at church, because at church the preacher goes, his wife is here, stand up, let the people see. Stand up, let the people see. Stand up, don't worry, these laughs are for me. I'm trying to cool down. Okay, not for you. In the last year, when I was 18, my father played me an album by an incredible musician called Big Mselebu. And for the last decade, that's been my favorite musician ever. I've listened to all kinds of music, from Coltrane to Miles to Fela to Brenda Fassie, to whoever you can mention. And nothing makes me feel like the way Big Mselebu when he touches those keys. And he died. I was raised by my two grandmothers. In the last 2 years, they both died. This week I lost a guy who taught me how to play a little bit of piano. His name is Philip. He was known as Jay Shawan, a gospel singer. He died this week. 3 weeks ago, the guy who taught me how to steal magazines at CNA, his name is Buso. we used to cut this part of our jackets. But like the lessons he taught me, he was so charismatic, taught me how to ask girls out. He was like, don't do it after you drank beer, because the girls just don't like that shit. The bread. He died a month ago. Exactly a year ago from today. One of my favorite people in the world, her name was Miletu. She died in this week. So I've been struggling with death. I don't like it. So in the last 2 weeks I wrote a poem, a little conversation I had with death. Don't want to bring you down, but I don't do well with death. The metaphor for death are in these metaphors of death. Death, like an orgasm, never arrives precisely when you want it. Oh man, it's about death. Are you laughing? Insensitive motherfuckers, what is this? Okay. You should come down, okay. I mean, it's a tricky first line, isn't it? It's over now, you got it. Death, like an orgasm, never arrives precisely when you want it, but in her sudden eventuality is always thoroughly fulfilling. It's like filling a bath with ice cold water. No one wants to jump in there, but if the space between flesh and fingernail is blood-stained, you might have to. It might catch you on the shadowy side of the sky. Death will confuse you. Like eating a 400 rand T-bone steak with a Woolies rosé. Death, a coolie called train pitch. The itch will send you miles from where you handcuffed your future with words you spit in your drunkenness. Death, an oxymoron, a Jew driving a Benz. Like you striving to mend, the truth dying to end. The blues are jiving this pen. It's cruel, mining for sense. Dude, why you crying again? You screwed, fighting for lands. You skewed, smiling to blend with environments that hate you and everything that looks like you. Death is frustrating, like the young girl with no legs but has a heart of a dancer. or pharmaceutical company CEOs who celebrate cancer. Death is an untrustworthy motherfucker, like bank loans, or bullets made of chocolates, or American governments, or dudes who write cute love poems to girls. Pearls, gifts of guilt. We lift each other, my friend and I, with hugs and text messages. Hey, how you doing? We will be all right. I say it without completely believing it. Death is hard to explain. Like how you don't miss your ex, but you miss what you had. Or how the worst thing I ever did is the best thing I ever did. Death will focus you, because the blind man who knows the color of fear in the Gaza Strip does not care what Kanye West did at the VMAs. We're in a maze, because from the moment we were born, we started dying, and at the slight manifestations of it, we point and giggle. There is nothing to see here, folks. There is nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Move along. There is another funeral 3 streets from here. They butchered 2 more cows than we did, so their portions of meat is much bigger. This hard liquor cannot compare. The weight of the rain tearing from my eyes. My grandmother is more than just a memory. She is in everything I smell. I tell stories because she did. So if not for me, for her, I choose to live. I choose to live. And for young men who carried guns, who loved their countries more than their countries loved them, who went to foreign woods in names of war, but never came back. If not for me, for them, I choose to live. I choose to live. And for young girls who said, don't worry, I trust you. If not for me, for them, I choose to live. I choose to live. And for Moses Mulelekwa, and Peggy Selegu, and Gito Baloy, and Moses Kumalo, and Eskiam Pachele, and Brenda Fassi, and Lucky Dube, and Lebo Matosa, and John Machigiza, and Chris Hani, and for Oliver Tambo, for Walter Sisulu, for Steve Biko, and for 1,000 crazy, insane, out of their minds revolutionaries in black and white school uniform, some from Soweto and some from Sharpeville. If not for me, at the very least, for them, I choose to live. Thank you. Amen. When I started the poetry thing 3 years ago, I used to do a poem called Smiles. And the poem was a love poem, and I was madly in love, 4 or 5 years, madly in love. So the poem came out of my pores, you know? But then that didn't work out for me, as most of you, love is a tricky thing. And I wrote a poem about how I was responsible for the love that I had didn't work out. And the insane thing was how people didn't react well to it. They were like, you shouldn't do that poem. I was like, when I wrote that Smiles poem, I wasn't writing it because I was trying to tickle you. Because in the moment where I was in love, that was my truth. And this is my truth right now. Love is not so great anymore. I don't write it to tickle you, but I write it because this is what my truth is right now. And poetry saved my life. Like literally, I've been to prison, I've been a street kid. I'm still here because words came. we did a song with Zabs, and one time we finished the song, and Zabs said to me, Zabs is an incredible, I'm assuming everybody knows him because he's my favorite rapper in the world, but Zabs is an incredible artist, like thinker brother, who, just an amazing human being. And one day we made a song. And when we finished it, he said, you know, we could never take credit for the song. And I said, why? And he said, because certain songs are about us, but certain songs are bigger than both our intelligence and our art put together. This is just God. And when you listen to the song, you realize that I'm personally not that smart and I'm personally not that talented. It had to be God. I'm so serious. So that's how much that's how much the words mean to me. So when I do this poem about love, I want you to remember that I will never use this medium that saved my life, that I believe is godly, to speak anybody's truth except mine. I will never use it to criticize somebody. I will never use it to slash anybody. I will never use it to speak down on anybody. This is my truth. And this is what poetry means to me, and I hope it means the same thing to you. The other side of love. She says, you break things. And I say, nothing. She says, you break things. And I say, nothing. But I do not, till the bubbling vessel of airs reaches break point and the silence becomes a scream, and the dream becomes a weapon, and the heavens become a witness, and the sickness a wall. Her two favorite books are broken. One carelessly scribbled on by my 2-year-old, very crazy niece who loves crayons more than hugs. The other reeks of dirty bathwater. She wants to get angry at me the way women get angry at men, but she sings far more on tune than what radio plays. She says, you break things. I want to say, baby, I'll pay for it, but with what? With what? So instead, I say, nothing. But I do not, till the bubbling vessel of airs reaches break point and the silence becomes a rock. And the rot becomes a seizure, and the fever becomes the invincible, and the invisibles become a war. The fruit of her sweat is broken. It's broken. I am wearing a new shirt. She is wearing an old heart. Both paid for by her. The unknown man here. Only dry lemons and even more dry forevers. Her tongue, always liquid, once pulled out my calling from the shades of shame with names like mutilations and prison blocks and oh, he's the one who was touched amongst the shadows, and she twisted it like her hair in the summertime. She said, ooh, baby, you've got it. Ooh, baby, you've got it. You've got it, baby. And I believed her, thus I believe me. So how could this tongue, this very tongue that knows nothing else but magic, scare me? Scare me in the same way that my father's eyes used to scare me when I felt he could see my inadequacy becoming blatant. And men with eyes that see from a distance follow them, and in their following, they leave people behind. There is a similarity here between his eyes and a tongue. Oh my goodness, I see it now. Oh shit, she would leave. Oh, she's going to leave. I I'll show her. I'll leave first. So here it is. Here it is, the breaking. Right in front of you. Here it is, the breaking point. The breaking point. She gets angry at me. She gets angry at me because the green tracksuit pants from Yovo is broken. Oh, she bought me like this black Mos Def CD from New York. It's broken. Oh my goodness. She bought me this like fawn hat from Cuba. Like, it's broken. And she dreamt every night. And all of her blue dreams, black dreams, orange dreams, I broke them. I broke all of her dreams. She wants to get angry at me the way black women get angry at black men for only knowing how to love with their eyes shut. But she sings far more on tune than what radio plays. She says, "You break things." She comes into a room. Before I could say, "No, baby, I'm not decent, but it's too late," she says, "What have you got behind your back?" I say, "Nothing." She says, "Show me." So when I bring forth blood-stained hands with smithereens of her crushed heart, crushed with lies and plastic I love yous. She cries, she sighs, she dies a little bit. She says, "Oh, you are an actor." I'm like, "No, baby. No, I really meant it, but I also claim the Holocaust to be another word for vanilla ice cream, so she does not believe me." A part of me wants to say, "You should have known. You say every day I break things." But come on. Even if you could peel through this filthy flesh, you might find remnants of something that was once human. I can't say that to her. That's bullshit. So instead, I say, nothing. But I do not. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I've heard that poem several times, and every time I hear it, it hits a note. The thing about Kabomo was talking about poetry, and the thing I find about it, I've been pretending to do this thing for about 10 years, and it brings people together. But I believe that one's writing is a reflection of who you are as a person, and therefore, as a writer and as a person, or starting off as a person, you connect with people in different ways, and then you discover their writing, and it enhances it even further. Our next poet is somebody I met for the first time 3 days ago, and had never heard her poetry. We'd had a couple of conversations via email. Kabomo had met her before. We won't talk about the details of that meeting. But Kabomo had met her before, and she says to me she's coming down from Kenya. And it just made sense to have a shot. And I only got to hear some of her poetry yesterday, but at no stage was I worried or concerned, which is a strange thing. But I think it's tied to the fact that as people we connected, and there was a kind of, call it a kindred spirit, which made it easy to go ahead with this entire process. So please welcome my new Kenyan Hawaiian connection. Thanks. Imani.
Now I'm supposed to be funny like Kabomo. I don't know. I can't do that. So I'm gonna do what I do best. But thank you so much for having me here and sharing this stage with these incredible performers is an honor. So I'm gonna tone it down and ask a question. How many people do you know that actually live with integrity? How many people do you know that live the things that they actually value? Throw up a hand with a number, or not. You know, seriously, do you know, is it a lot? Like, feed me, give me some energy back. Do you? You know a lot of people? You do? Yeah? You know a lot? A few. So, I'm really young, so I'm slowly meeting more and more people who live with integrity. And as I begin to live with integrity more and more, I tend to attract these people. But that question of asking people what they value and if they really live up to those values, and it makes you kind of check your own thoughts, your own self. But this man came into my life, and he had so much integrity, just amazing, and his name is Ezekwe, and I wrote this poem for Ezekwe. It's called Embodiment of the Title Man. I think of you when I think of a man who embodies the title. You are symphony. Mind, body, spirit, and harmony, you are God. And anyone who has ever told you otherwise is God too, just God blind on the brink of seeing one day. But you know yourself, and to your own self stay true even on a bad day. The day the world wants you to forget your name, healthy and vigorous, you still claim self-whole. Tell me, how many people do you know that fall victim to their own existence, flee responsibilities and become fugitives from their own life creations? Your empty pocketbook says nothing of who you are, but your skin and integrity of ancient kings says everything. Each syllable of each word means something real, and anyone who has ever told you otherwise is God too, just God blind on the brink of seeing one day. But you see, now hear, now feel, now are, now, and your life now is a love story. Entwined with mine, enriched in burnt red earth, I have watched you when no one else is looking. I have clothed you in love from afar. This Atlantic is no match for my magic someday. I will press my silk lips against the tips of your fingers and quiet all this noise, inhaling and absorbing the moment of now. Turn then again, I will repeat the ritual of prayer. You are God, and anyone who has ever told you otherwise is God too, just God blind on the brink of seeing one day. But you see now that you have never been loved by another so pure. Thank you so much. So this next poem is also about a man. And yeah, this poem is about my best friend who fell madly in love with me, and I didn't feel the same way for him. And it tore him to shreds. And we used to live, we were roommates, and we were very tight, like those jeans, you just, and he, I didn't know how to approach a situation. And so sometimes when we approach a situation that we're not too sure how to, we beat around it and avoid it and, that kind of thing. We don't want to just approach it. And so this poem and my approach to this poem, which is why I need 2 microphones, because I can't approach it in one way. So I had to break it up. It's called This Man I Know. This man I know packs beauty into one firm space, carries the light of a child with a sage hue on his soul. He is gold, and I cannot force things that I do not feel, though he is supreme to me. One of the things that I love about poetry is that it furnishes the freedom to say things exactly as I mean them. And other times when I choose, I can beat around the bush like men do without being called sluts, and I can say preposterous things like, all pearls in the sea were made for me. This man I know rocks a 6-pack like frat boys do on a Friday night, has the swagger of a brother from Brooklyn streets, but his passport reps the world. He was raised strong and thorough by a woman's hands, takes his responsibilities seriously. He unselfishly looks out for me. Poems can be deceptive to those that write them. Their meanings can switch up as fast as a child's story when attempting to lie. Most of the time, we hide our truth beneath our words like Muslim women do belly buttons beneath buoy buoys. Syllables contain secrets like seas do salt, and most days, I search for my own truth. Steady decipher internal codes to learn me. This man I know can capture your essence in 2 colors, or 1 if you prefer it that way. Says he likes to stroke green smoke on a Saturday or any day. Says it helps him surrender to life and he likes it that way. Wears beads around his neck to respect God. Poetry is everything and nothing at the same time, and I wonder where words go when they are erased from the page, knowing that the universe does not forget even a whisper. Wind, though not seen, carries our everything, blows across this earth until pygmy warriors know where pirates have been, spin like ciphers and come back to phase 1. This is the blueprint of ourselves designed by God. This man I know holds his sadness somewhere between his backbone and his left rib cage. Holds it in strong and silent on most days. I've never actually seen him drip a tear, but I know he knows how to cry because he knows how to laugh whole. Soles of his feet physically grounded to the earth strong. He belongs to the same tribe as God. I wonder how many potentially life-changing poems are stuffed buried beneath the fear that these words don't matter, to shatter. All doubt is one of the hardest things for a human being to do, that, along with just being. For there are just far too many things these days for a human to do. I watch all things morph into another. This is the language spoken by God.
Thank you, Imani. We're going to take a 15-minute break, allow you to catch your breath, and we'll come back just now. So do what you need to do.
So I just had to count 3 times.